Welcome to Photoshop User TV, produced by Photoshop User Magazine and the National Association of Photoshop Professionals. And here are your hosts, the Photoshop guys, Dave Cross, Matt Kloskowski, and Scott Kelby.
This week's episode is brought to you in part by CDW. For hardware, software, gadgets, and more, CDW has the right technology right now. And iStock Photo, the world's preeminent collection of member-generated royalty-free images and digital art. On1 Software, developers of award-winning plugins that help you maximize the power of Photoshop.
Hi everybody and welcome to another pasteurized episode of Photoshop User TV, brought to you by the National Association of Photoshop Professionals, known as NAP, the publishers of this magazine, Photoshop User Magazine. What a great name for a magazine and a TV show. Hi.
Yes, indeed.
Hi. Wow. I'm Scott Kelby. Guess who's here with me today? Matt Kloskowski.
Hi everyone. And
back from an extended hiatal hernia, it's Dave Cross.
Sure.
Sure, whatever.
Dave, do you like our viewers again?
I always have,
and
don't ever do that to me again.
I'll never forget that day he came into Matt. Remember Matt, the day he came into our office?
Stop it.
All right, sorry. Hey, we have a great show for you. We have a very special guest today, Dan Margulis, the father of modern color correction in Photoshop and all things color in digital, is here with us. So we're going to have Dan on a little bit later. We're very, very excited. It's an honor to have him here. Dave Cross is here, and it's an honor always to have him here.
Well, thank you.
Because he's Canadian and gives us kind of an international flair. And Matt's just nice to have here just because, well, he's really the eye candy of the show. Dave and I are the trolls, and basically, it's all on Matt to bring it. He's bringing it. This is how he rolls. Okay. And speaking of rolls, sorry, Dave. How about a tutorial from Dave Cross, the Canadian boss?
If you insist.
We do.
First of all, I will say it's good to be back, and after my apparent vacation last week where I was making poutine, and just to prove that it is actually true, I brought a package of poutine gravy just to see. It is something if you've never tried it, you don't know what you're missing.
You can get it at any 7-Eleven.
It's a Canadian treat.
In another country.
And rather than waste any time, let me just say, if you want to find out about this little thing on my laptop, just go to my blog, and I'll give you all the details there, because it's a secret.
What's your blog's name?
Jimmy.
Jimmy. That's a great name for a blog. All right, go ahead.
DaveCross.blogspot.com. Okay, so here's, I'm going to show you the after photo, because if I just show you the before, it'd be pretty obvious, I think. So here's the after, and here's what it looks like before. And you can see there's a fairly noticeable shadow. So the challenge is how to try and remove that shadow in a way that looks, relatively effective and realistic. So here's what we're going to do. First of all, take the color sampler tool, and I'm just going to mark a spot on the shadow and on the wall nearby. So over here in the info palette, I can use this information from those two markers to help me, so I don't have to do basically any guesswork whatsoever. Then I'm going to take my lasso tool and just do a small little selection of this area, because I want to be able to see the effect and eventually expand upon it. So once I've done that, I'll add a curves adjustment layer. And then holding down two keys, Command and Shift, which of course would be Control Shift on the PC, and click right on that number 1 marker, because that's the area I want to affect. And what that's going to do is automatically put a marker on both the red and green and blue channels. So at this point, the math is basically all it comes down to. I just look over here in my info palette and I see that the red is 179, but it should be 228. So I simply change the output to 228. And then I can use the keyboard Command or Control 2 to go to the green channel and do the same thing. It's 142, it should be 196. And Command or Control 3, and it's 56, and it should be 128. And if the math all works, then what we should have is a color that looks very similar. Now, it doesn't look very good so far, because of course, I originally had just made my small little selection. But if I were to, first of all, let me go back to the color sampler tool, because I don't need those little samplers anymore. It's a little distracting, so there we go. Now, I'm on the layer mask automatically that I created. So basically, at this point, I just have to start painting. And you see, as I do, it's really pretty much matching the background color.
Look at you, Dave Cross.
Of course, if I had more time and resolution and accuracy, I would get much closer. Now, I'm deliberately getting to the point where see how I've gone too far? You can see that little white area there. I'm deliberately
it's
doing that
overlapping.
because I want to make sure I don't miss anything. So the final part of this trick to kind of make it look more realistic would be to add a new layer, take the clone stamp tool, and if the problem, like in here, the border is lightly colored, I'm going to change the blend mode to darken. And I'm also on use all layers or sample all layers, so the results will go on my blank layer. Then I hold down Option or Alt, click in the wall, and basically paint over that little seam to get it all matched up. Now I did this really quickly, but I think you can still see the idea that it looks pretty close if I were to hide those two layers. Here's the original and here's now. And the whole idea is most of the work is done for you because you're using the measurements of red, green, and blue instead of trying to just guess it yourself. So pretty quick way, it works pretty well.
Dave Cross, I'm impressed.
you
How
very
about you?
I am.
Look at him.
I can tell.
Yeah,
That's
all
his
right.
impressed look.
Hey, well, thank you, Dave. Hey, a couple of things. Hey, I mentioned briefly that we're Photoshop User Magazine is our thingy, and if you haven't ever seen Photoshop User Magazine, you can get it on newsstands, not only here in the United States, but in 2 other countries. No, there's a couple different places. They show up here and there all around the world, but it's published 8 times a year, and you can read articles from people like Matt Kloskowski,
Hi.
Dave Kroskowski,
Yes, sir.
R.C. Kroskowski.
Anyone
Corey
with a last name
Kroskowski.
that ends in ski.
Yeah, and a bunch of other fine people like, Deke McClelland and Ben Wilmore and Katrine Eisman,
Host of
John
others.
Paul Caponegro.
John Paul Campanella,
Burt Monroe.
Burt Monroy.
The list goes on.
Anyway, if you're a member of the National Association of Photoshop Professionals, you get this free. We send it to you, and it flies. Watch. Sweet.
I think what most people find is after they bought it on the newsstand a couple times and paid the newsstand price, they realize it's
Yeah.
worth it to join NAP
I
just to
should've
get that
joined
because
NAP.
they get that and the website and all those other wonderful
And the
benefits we have.
discounts, because what a lot of people do is they join NAP and then they use all the discounts on the site to pay for their membership.
There you go.
So they wind up getting the whole thing for like nothing.
Works like a charm.
It's crazy. Hey, let's take a short break. When we come back, I've got a tutorial. Matt's got a tutorial. We've got some contests, giveaways, one for the road, a whole bunch more, and special interview with Dan Margolis. So stick around. We'll be right back on Photoshop User TV.
Hey, Bob. Yeah, we're expanding. We're gonna need a lot more stuff. Let's start with servers. Okay, HP ProLiant, IBM, Sun. Oh, good. And networking. Cisco, 3Com. Wow, is there anything you guys don't have?
With over 1,000 top technology brands to choose from, in stock and ready to ship, we're there. CDW.
What do you think about getting some takeout after this?
Well, howdy, folks. We are back. Scott Kelby here with Matt Kloskowski, Dave Cross. Hey, I got a tutorial. I'm going to go ahead and do it.
Do it.
All right.
Do it.
All right. So last week, I was in Hawaii doing my last stop in my Lightroom Live tour, and got lucky enough to go out and shoot with a photographer called Randy. Well, his name is Randy Braun, and a really, really great guy. And he specializes in ancient hula photography. All right. So it's not the commercial kind of hula you see at the hula show at the Hilton. It's the the kind of the ancient one. And anyway, we went out and shot it at a beach near our hotel. And what he does, he sells these beautiful calendars that they're just gorgeous. Oh, there's another camera over there. Hi, Eric. How you doing, buddy? Hey, have you seen Juan? Okay. Anyway, he sells these beautiful calendars, and he gives them kind of this a look that he puts on in Photoshop that has that kind of, I don't want to say ancient look, but it looks kind of a little more historical and stuff. So I went ahead and did that. I posted some on my blog, and I got a number of emails from people asking how it was done. Well, I did it using 2 presets in Lightroom, but you can do it in Photoshop's Camera Raw. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do the exact same thing, all within Camera Raw, as long as you have CS3. Could you do it in CS? No, yeah. Could you do it in CS2? You might be able to. Yeah, you might be able to. Well, you'll find out. Because if you see me use a slider that you don't have, you go, hey, where's that slider? All right, I think you could. But anyway, here we go. So here's one of the images that we took on the beach here. And this was taken with the brand new Nikon D300. I just got mine here just a couple weeks ago. And using a 70 to 200 VR lens. And this was shot at f2.8. And you can see here in the ISO information, right there at 200 ISO. All right. I just told you what you could read right there. Interesting. All right, here are the settings. I mean, these are, now I got these settings from Lightroom, so we're just going to plug them in directly into Camera Raw. So you start by increasing the temperature amount to 12,500.
Wow.
Well, This looks really bad until the very last step here. So, or 12,500. Yeah, 500 would be a different number, wouldn't it? Here we go. Whoa, 12,500. You know, you could just type it in, but that would be cheating. All right, then you increase the tint to plus 35. I mean, basically, you're just taking the exact same settings we did in Lightroom and just basically copying them over. All right. The exposure. Now, they pump up the exposure to plus 75. And that sometimes, depending on the photo, is a little too bright. But you'll know if you look at your photo, it looks too bright.
That's probably the most subjective out of them, I would say.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, the rest are pretty much, this is just, you know, your photo's already kind of, if your photo's already kind of bright, you're going to have to adjust it. You don't touch the recovery. You don't touch the fill light. You do increase the blacks to 11. Like that. Alrighty, and you're going to increase the brightness to 57. And the image looks really bad until almost the last step, so and I think it looks pretty bad right now. So let's just type in 57 because I'm tired of trying to move that. All right, and you don't touch the clarity, you don't touch the vibrance, but what you do is you lower the saturation to minus 71, which kind of gives it that antique-y kind of look here. Let me go way down to the minus 71 right there. All right, now you still have a couple of other moves. The other move is to match what's in Lightroom. As you go over here, go to the tone curve panel, go to the point curve, and turn off the default contrast, which is medium contrast. You set it to linear. Now, the last thing they did is they had a little bit of vignetting, but I created my own preset that I've shown people in my Lightroom class, and I did a lot of vignetting. So you're going to go to the vignetting panel for lens vignetting, and it's the 6th one down. And you're going to turn the amount all the way to full, and then you're going to bring in the midpoint. So what this does, by the way, it darkens the edges, and then the midpoint determines how far in you darken. So you're going to darken almost, I go to the letter O. Oh, somewhere in there. And that is the antique-y effect that you have there.
Sweet.
So it's just basically you're picking up the two settings. If you were using, let me just look over there. If you were using Lightroom, you would do the same thing by simply going to the presets that are in Lightroom already. Now, you have to have like Lightroom 1.1 or higher, but you'll go to the built-in presets and you'll click on Aged Photo. That throws all of these settings in there. Then you'll just go scroll down to the lens correction panel. You'll go to vignetting and add that in there yourself. So it is just basically 2 steps. Click on Aged Photo, add a little bit of vignetting, throw some sharpening on it.
Cool. Hey,
Bang.
when
Bang,
you're
you're
there,
done.
why don't you show them how to make that into a preset in camera?
Yeah, you can go to, there's actually a little preset panel here at the very end. And you can just click on this little button right here and make it a preset. You can decide which things you want in the preset. So basically what we had in here was we had the white balance, we had exposure, blacks, brightness, we had saturation, we had the point curve, and we had lens vignetting.
There you go.
Beautiful. And then we're going to name this Aged Photo Effect.
There you go.
Thank you, Dave Cross.
One click away.
Now you are
Dave
one click.
Cross.
That Dave Cross. I love that guy. But not as much as I love Matt's tutorial.
Hey,
Thought I was going someplace weird, didn't you? All right.
I thought we were going to a break first. So talk for a second.
So, hey.
I got something I can add since you made a nice unintentional segue with your Hawaii photo. Is that Matt,
here it
Matt and I are
comes.
going on a cruise to Hawaii next summer.
Seriously,
And,
wait, is there even a spot left? I get an email from somebody every day that goes, oh, I'm going on,
No, but
on Matt and
here's
Dave's
the thing.
cruise.
The entry for the free contest is going to be drawn at the end of December. So if you haven't already gone to cruisingthroughlife.com to get a chance for the free cruise, you got to do it. And the discount, the early discount, ends at the beginning of, in middle of January, somewhere in January. So check it out. You could join Matt and I and Lori Excel and Moose Peterson on these same lovely shores, and maybe we'll even get a hula girl. So they call them
Speaking
hula
of
girls.
Hawaii,
Yes, as good as mine. Wow, good segue.
I have nothing about Hawaii, but yeah.
I do have to say, not to belabor the point, but last week, or a couple weeks ago, I met somebody at Scott's Lightroom tour, a gentleman, Hicks Milner, really nice guy, and we went out to try to go shoot the space shuttle launch that never actually happened, and won't actually happen for another month now. But we went out to try, and we just had a good time. We're on his boat, and we had a fun time, and we're just talking about Photoshop TV and things like that. And he says, yeah, he goes, just to let you know, he goes, I got the Hawaii thing.
He didn't miss it 17 times we
He's like,
mentioned
just in
it.
case you think somebody missed it, that show. He's like, I got it. All right.
Hey, wait, hold on. Before you go, can I stall for one more second? Photoshop User Awards. There is an award. And it's the winding down here. I think you have till December 31st to enter. And the winner we're going to fly to, guess where? Hawaii. That's right. You and a friend,
trend
we
here.
fly you out there, and you get to design the cover of Photoshop User magazine. So you get basically flown out there, you get your hotel room, we wine you, we dine you, you hang out in Hawaii, you make a cover maybe, you come back, you talk to Matt, you talk to Dave, you have a great time. Go ahead.
If you already live in Hawaii, then we fly you to Jacksonville,
And you can find out
Florida.
more about that at some website that Jason will put here. I think it's PhotoshopUserAwards.com. But hey, Jason loves to put up links.
Can I go now?
Yes, go.
You guys. All right.
Do you take this?
So I did a tutorial a while back where I showed how to add an adjustment layer and how to selectively go in and paint some areas back in and make them brighter. And after I taught that at one of my classes, somebody came up to me and said, okay, that's cool, but what about if the subject is already well lit and it's the background that you want to make darker? I was like, well, you just do the opposite. And he's like, what's the opposite? So it kind of like, it kind of seemed like second nature, and I realized that, it is a little bit different. It's a little bit different way of thinking. So what we're going to do here is go add a curves adjustment layer. And in the brightening effect, what I did was I took this curve and I kind of dragged it up and I brightened everything, and then I went in and kind of painted everything out. But in this example here, what we're going to do is take it and we're going to drag it down. We're going to darken it a little bit. Okay, because the subject, if you look before, the subject is already pretty well lit. It's the background that we probably, can darken up a little bit. So we're going to hit OK. If you got, you're not quite sure how dark to go, it doesn't matter because we can come back to it later. So now you can see over here on the right is a layer mask. On the right, there we go, is a layer mask, and it's white. So if I grab a black paintbrush, okay, and I go over the subject and I just start to paint the subject over in black, I'll start to bring back the original photo that was underneath. Okay? So we'll paint the subject over here. And once you get that done, what you have here is essentially a darkened background where you put the subject back to the way it was originally. So there's our original photo. Now we come in here, we darken the background, and what's really nice about it is, number one, you can look at your mask and see if you missed any areas, but the other thing is you can double click on your adjustment layer. And if you want to go lighter, then you can lighten the background here, or you can go even darker. Turn your preview on before you do anything.
Makes a difference.
Yeah, it does. But you can go even darker, and you actually get a preview of it because you already painted on the layer mask. So now you know a little bit more closely, do I need to go lighter? Do I need to go darker? Once you find it, you hit OK, and it's a pretty nice way to just draw more attention to the subject, but the reverse. Instead of lightening it, darken the background.
Can I add something to that?
You may.
Because in the spirit of Dave Cross, adding on to your tutorial.
Please.
Sometimes when you make an adjustment like this,
Yes.
I'm going to look at camera 2. Sometimes when you make an adjustment like this, what happens is the photo gets either, it adjusts the colors. The colors actually get, you didn't just make it darker, but the colors get sometimes more saturated or darker. Now, in this case, Matt was really just working on the background, so it's not as big a deal. But if you're working on a person and you want to not have their skin tone and stuff get crazy,
Ooh, I know.
switch the mode from normal, the blend mode there, down to luminosity. And that way you get the effect of darkening the photo without actually darkening the colors. Just
There
a
you have
little
it.
throw there.
Very nice.
You can actually
Throw
even
down.
see it there. It even,
Yeah, you can.
luminosity
Yep.
kind of leaves the sky alone, where
Yep.
normal actually kind of
Now,
gives the sky a little
in
bit
this
more of a
particular
red
case,
color.
I like the left
Yeah.
normal, but in a lot of cases, luminosity, you'll make that move and you'll go, oh gosh, it kind of made my image too.
Skin tone.
Then you flip it over
Yeah.
to luminosity. There you have it.
Well, thank you.
It's a luminous light source. That's for my friends in Hawaii. Okay, hey everybody, we're going to take a short break. We have Stephanie standing by in the Photoshop Action News Center with the latest in Storm Team Action News. So don't forget, after the news, Dan's here. Exciting stuff. But
Good
first,
save.
well, you know what it was? Forget it. Jason, that's the script. Just jumping in there and pointing to the words.
Pointing.
We'll be right back after the news with Stephanie. Go that way. Storm Team. Storm.
Hey guys, Stephanie Cross again at the news for you today. First off, Acfis has released version 5.0 of Acfis Noise Buster for Windows and Macintosh. The plugin removes visible noise without blurring the edge of objects and includes a batch mode to automatically improve a series of photos. Check it out today. Available until the end of December 2007, On1 Software's Everything Bundle includes 6 Photoshop plugins that would cost over $1,200 if purchased separately. First-time On1 Software customers can purchase the special bundle for $500, and existing customers can purchase the bundle for $400. For more information, check it out at this website right here. And finally, Exchange International has announced the release of PhotoSpray 1.8, a Photoshop plugin that offers the ability to spray pictures on top of photos or layers. This method of painting lets users brush sets of images on top of any photo. I'm Stephanie Cross, and I'll see you back next week.
All right, everybody, we're very honored to have with us Dan Margulis, who is known as the father of color correction and curves and, of course, LAB color in Photoshop. Dan, good to have you here, buddy.
Good to see you, Scott.
All right, so anybody that comes within 3 miles of our studio is forced to come in and do a quick interview. So we grabbed Dan, asked him to come in, and if you're not familiar with Dan's work, I mean, he literally has written some of the most important books in the history of Photoshop, one of them being this book right here, the Photoshop LAB color book. I'm going to look over to camera 2. Hi, Eric. Here it is right here. If you've ever been in one of my classes in the last year or two, you always hear me talk about this book, and I always tell my students that if you're going to go out and buy a book, this is the one to get, because you will learn more from this one book about color, not just about color correction, but about color in general, than any book I've read in years. And the only other book that touches it is, well, Dan's other book, which is the Photoshop Professional Color. I mean, those books are groundbreaking, and everybody's using curves. At one time, they learned it from you, didn't they?
I guess.
I mean, he kind of is the guy that pioneered all this stuff. So thank you for being here, man.
Well, it's great to be here.
So you've been kind of slacking off here. You teach at Photoshop World, and you know.
I teach at Photoshop World, and I travel the rest of the world, not just the Photoshop
Yeah,
world.
you've been going everywhere.
But Photoshop World's been killing me, because on the last day of Photoshop World, I always do my sort of latest and greatest stuff. Because, you know, this book was good at the time, but I found more and more interesting ways, really perverted way to correct pictures.
Oh, that's lovely, Dan.
But they come out so much nicer. And so I always show the latest and greatest things on the final day of Photoshop World, and people are very interested usually to see it, even understanding that I haven't perfected all these things yet. And so I'm spending a lot of time trying to figure out why certain methods work and certain ones don't, so that I can continue to have a good audience on the third day.
Oh yeah, well it's funny because I mean there's very few people that are really stretching the limits of what Photoshop will do, and we a couple of us guys were talking about this about a month ago, right after Photoshop World. We're talking about who is out there really trying the new things and going to new areas. What you opened up in lab color, I mean everybody that's using lab today ought to send you a little check.
Okay, yes, let me give my address here.
Because it's incredible what you can do with LAB color, and these are things that, oh, and by the way, he says in the book, don't call it lab color. It's not Urjiba, it's not Simuka.
SMIC.
It's not SMIC, it's LAB color. But what you've done here is just absolutely amazing. So go check out Dan's book, the Photoshop Lab Color book, and of course you'll see Dan at Photoshop World, and he does pre-conference sessions and regular conference classes. And Dan's classes they're not for beginners. So it's really for, I mean, you have to kind of know your way around Photoshop when you show up, but you see people come out. I have people stop me in the hallways at Photoshop World and say, my mind is blown, and it's because there's nobody teaching what Dan teaches but Dan. Buddy, it's an honor to have you here. Thank you for coming on.
Great to see you.
And we'll see you on the road.
Okay, man.
All right, back to me or whoever in the studio. Hi, everybody. You're back with the Photoshop guys. Scott Kelby here with Matt and Dave. And it's contest time. Dave, tell us about the contest.
Well, you had a contest last week when I wasn't here, and it was a darn fine one.
Yeah.
I like that question.
We got to make our contests harder. You know,
Matt,
we got to.
why don't you
get like 7,000 right answers.
remind them what the question was from last week?
Well, thank you, Dave. The
You
question
don't remember, do you?
was, oh, there they are. The question was, other than, was it Shift F5?
Right.
What's another keyboard shortcut to bring up the fill dialog?
That's a good one. And the answer was?
I have no idea.
Shift backspace, right?
Shift, yes. Hold on.
Shift delete, shift back.
Shift delete, shift backspace, And that will bring up the fill dialog for you as well.
I don't remember. Oh, no. All right.
That said, I think whoever did get it will get this the fine prizes in the name.
This person right here.
Yeah.
Ta-da. Good for them.
Next up, if you answer Dave Cross's question this week, which will be nowhere near as good as my question from last week,
You better pick a hard one now.
Oh, I got it hard.
you will win a copy of the brand new, hot off the press iPod book by Mr. Scott Kelby.
You can tell it's hot off the press. Got all fingerprints all
Yeah,
over it
it's
as we were
brand
looking at
new.
it.
New, eh?
Covers the touch.
iPod
covers
Touch, Nano,
the
all
new
this
fun
stuff. New, yeah, it's great.
And you will also, Eric's like, stop moving the magazine. You will also win a 1-year membership to the National Association of Photoshop Professionals. If you're already a member, you will get a 1-year extension to your membership.
How many times can I enter?
They can enter 1 time.
All right, Dave Cross, what's the question?
The
Make it
question
hard.
is a hard one. Where in Photoshop would you find an option or a choice called cone inverted? You think you had a hard question.
That's
Shift-
a hard cone.
Shift delete.
It's
Cone
not shift delete.
inverted.
It's not pattern maker. I'll give you that little hint right now.
All right.
So go to the website. You know how to do it. Enter the little contest thingy, and good luck to you.
By the way, all the links that we mentioned on the show are also there. So if there's anything that we talked about and you thought, hey, I'd like to go check that out, go to the website and check it out.
There you have it.
Well, hey, we're going to give you 3 things to do between this week's show and next week's show. I'm going to go ahead and kick it off with Moose Peterson. All right, so we mentioned Moose earlier, the greatest man in the world. Moose has a brand new website that he did a comprehensive review of the new Nikon D3. So it's kind of like a D3 microsite. Go check it out at moosepeterson.com/D3 if you're into the Nikon D3
Nice.
or want to get into the Nikon D3 or just like to say the letters D3. Matt?
I've got one for you called Bitbox, and it's just a little blog. It's a little blog site. It's got lots of Photoshop, lots of design kind of stuff on it, and all kinds of other stuff relating to computers and things like that.
All right, Dave.
These guys.
I'm going to suggest you go to Digital Photography School. I've recently been poking around there, and they've got all kinds of really interesting things, including segments on how to shoot very specific things, like how to shoot flowers, how to shoot babies, all that kind of stuff. Really interesting resource.
How to shoot
Blog and
babies.
page. Not that way.
Babies. All righty. Hey, it's time for one for the road. I'm doing one for the road. Wake up, computer. My computer's gone to sleep. It will not do one for the road. All right, so we're going to do one for the road here. And here we go. One for the road. All right, mine is a
Anytime
trick.
now.
Oh, yeah, it's good.
I'll give it play-by-play. Scott's opening Photoshop.
Here we go. It's right. I happen to have Photoshop right here. Hey, there's a picture of my bro. Hey, bro. All right. This is a real quickie, right? The one for the road?
No,
So
7
here's the deal.
minutes.
You can see that by pressing Command R on a Mac or Control R on a PC, it brings up the rulers on the sides, which you probably already know about. And you know that you can pull a guide out from the sides, from the side or from the top and the bottom. All right. And if you want to change the direction of the guide, just hold the Option key and it changes to the other way. So on PC it'd be Alt and it changes like that. But that's not really my trick. My trick is really this. If you want to change the ruler units, right now I have it set to inches, but you can change the ruler units without going all the way to the preferences. Just Control-click on Mac or right-click on PC and a list of different measurements you could change to. So if you wanted to go to centimeters, for example, thank you, Dave, because I use that a lot, you can go right there and you can switch right back to inches as soon as you cross the border. All righty, well, thanks everybody for sticking with us through another show. Next week we've got our special holiday show, so make sure you come and check that out because it's special and it's the holidays. Want to thank all of our sponsors for sponsoring us because without them we'd be sponsorless.
And Dan,
And Dan, of course,
for coming on the show.
Dan the man.
And Scott.
And me and Dave.
And Matt. And
And
Scott.
Matt.
Thank you.
And RC and
Jason.
Corey who couldn't be here, but we love them.
And Eric.
All right, guys, thanks very much. To see you guys next week for a special holiday edition right here. Photoshop User TV. Thanks for watching.